Hey Alexa, play Everybody Hurts by REM. Today is Sunday, June 27th, and this is Headers and Footers, the UEFA Euro 2020 show by the Toronto Star. I'm your host, Brendan Dunlop. Sunday gave us the most anticipated matchup of the round of 16. Two of the top 5 teams in the world, just one spot in the quarterfinals. It's the harsh reality of big tournaments. Big teams, great teams, will lose early. When they come up against each other, you just hope for an entertaining match. And that second half between Portugal and Belgium was scintillating. Heartbreaking if you're Portuguese, but entertaining if you're a fan of football. And I know a lot of people enjoyed that. I mean, you saw how heartbreaking that match was for Cristiano Ronaldo and company, how heartbreaking the outcome was for Ronaldo, his last European Championships, seeing their title defense come to an end on a sweaty Sunday night in Seville. Beaten by Belgium's golden generation, who, like the French 2 times in recent memory, denied the Italian and Portuguese communities in Toronto of an opportunity to meet at a major tournament. A Belgian win was always a real possibility here. I knew that. Every Portuguese supporter knew that. They are the number 1 ranked team in the world, Belgium. But who would have predicted that they would beat Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal thanks to a thunder goal from Thorgan Hazard? I said on this show that Thorgan Hazard would have a bigger impact on this tournament than expensive Eden. What a shot. Now, both Stephen Caldwell and Kevin Kilbane said on TSN's broadcast they thought Rui Patricio, the Portuguese goalkeeper, should have done better. At this level, the keeper has to be stopping shots like that. I'll ask Canada's most decorated goalkeeper when he joins me in a few moments. But here's a question for those of you watching this episode of Headers and Footers. Who shot it better, Thorgan or Oliver Bassett? Oliver Bassett's strike in Pacific FC's Canadian Premier League season opening 2-0 win over Halifax was a stunner. If you're listening to this podcast, pull up this episode of Headers and Footers on the Toronto Star's YouTube page. Check out this stellar goal by the 23-year-old. The CPL season kicked off this weekend with a bang in a bubble in Winnipeg. It's going to be a great year for Canadian soccer. Sunday started with a bang too. Holeš Schick, the Czech Republic, dumped the Dutch in the round of 16 in the first upset at Euro 2020. The Netherlands were one of the best teams in the group stage. Perfect through 3 games. They scored 8 goals. It's more than any team at the Euros. But apart from 15 minutes against Ukraine in their opening match, they were never really tested. Well, adversity hit them like a brownie in a coffee shop that had a little surprise in it. Tomaš Holeš headed home the Czechs' opening goal as the underdogs took advantage of a Dutch side that had their best defender, Matthijs de Ligt, sent off with a red card. Patrik Schick then made it Czech Mate, scoring his 4th of the tournament 12 minutes after that. I mean, even before going down to 10 men, the Netherlands looked shaky. They looked rattled. For as good as Memphis Depay and Daniel Malen had looked together, the Dutch duo couldn't capitalize. Despite several set-piece chances, Holland couldn't make anything of it. Thomas Vaclik looked like he'd been beaten, but he comes out and denies Malen what probably should have been the opening goal. And on the back of a big money move to Barcelona, Memphis Depay is going to feel a lot of the blame here for Sunday's disappointment in Budapest. Disappointment, though, a real theme of today's show. Well, in times of sadness, we're often told, turn to your friends. So I thought that's what I was doing today by inviting Craig Forrest on the show, legendary Canadian goalkeeper and my teammate on the Footy Prime Podcast. And you've come on here, Craig, wearing a Belgium shirt. So I guess I should stop listening to that advice.
You know, I don't know why. I just luckily had it clean and it was sitting around today, and it just happened to be there. Just all by luck. Don't know why, but they had a good day, I think, at the end of it. Very fortunate, weren't they?
Thank you, Paul Dolan, our friend at Adidas, for making sure that you're all kitted up for this tournament. I really thought that Portugal were, really up for this challenge. They certainly were the better side in the first half, and were unlucky to have conceded before the break. And then in the second half, Portugal really were relentless, and not seeing them play like this very often. It's so rare that Portugal dominate possession and attack as much as they did. The 23 attempts on goal and not score a goal. And watching the match, my brother had texted me, watching the match, I felt about the 65th minute mark. This reminds me of losing to Greece in 2004 in the final. And that was a scary thought. And maybe it was just because, Belgium, Portugal could have been a final at this tournament, but I don't really know how else to describe that second half. They really threw everything at Belgium and couldn't find the goal.
Yeah, they were really, other than scoring, they were really brilliant. I thought they took that game where they needed to. I was saying just before, it could have maybe set it loose a little bit earlier, but I don't think so. I think also that the Belgian side fatigued very, very quickly or very late in the game, and I thought a little bit quicker than they should have done. Whether that's a little bit older legs at the back, a little bit slower. And I thought that Portugal would, in the end, capitalize on that, and it was coming, and it just seemed like we were going to see a goal that didn't come. And saying it reminded me of that too at the end of it. 2004 certainly didn't remind me of anything like 5 years ago when Portugal would have won a game. Well, they play worse than that and scrape through. So it's a funny old game, isn't it? Sometimes, and knockout football, is cruel at times.
When Roberto Martinez rolled out Alderweireld, and who was the strongest amongst Vermaelen and Vertonghen, did you think Portugal was going to feast on them? And you made reference to it that you thought maybe Portugal left it too late. Should Andre Silva have come on earlier?
Well, I mean, let's face it. I think a lot of that was, Belgium sitting deeper and deeper, and as they're tiring, so that's going to also attract a lot of attention as well. But they were, and I did just think that it was just going to eventually come. And it was a great opportunity when they hit the post. I mean, that was just, it shinned it a little bit, but looking for placement, perfectly set on a plate, and then the header as well. You can't blame
Ruben Diaz.
Well, you can't blame him for not putting it in the corner. He's being challenged. He's trying to get his head on it. It was somewhat of a free header, but he's just trying to hit it with power and try to get it on target. And then he's unfortunate that it's gone straight at Courtois, because anywhere else, and that was a goal. That would have been a sweet goal for Portugal. Well, I can't say that. Yeah, you can't say. I just thought that they played really well, and unfortunately, they just couldn't find the back of the net, and that happens sometimes. And you look back on other tournaments, and you certainly compare.
Well, Thorgan Hazard's Thunderstrike certainly hit the back of the net. I said on Footy Prime, and I said on this show with Laura Armstrong, that I thought that Thorgan Hazard would have a bigger impact on this Belgium run here at Euro 2020 than expensive Eden. Nice to see I was proven right for my Portuguese fandom. Unfortunate that it was in this game. But what did you think of Rui Patricio, the Portuguese goalkeeper, on that? Because on the Canadian broadcast, there was criticism, and I saw on Twitter too that perhaps Rui Patricio should have done better at this level. As a goalkeeper, what did you think about that? With the power and swerve on that shot, I didn't think Patricio had a chance.
Well, I certainly know where he's coming from, and I've certainly seen that happen before in games too, when you have that much movement on it. If you don't read it immediately, very, very quickly, and it's going slightly to the goalkeeper's right, you're talking about a split second of your body shifting and momentum going one way and then to have to come back, even though the ball is nowhere near the corner. However, you get off the ground, and you know that it's on you. It's on you. Like you know that people will lay it on you, because most people don't understand how difficult that is and how quickly that is to pick up the movement on a ball. Interesting how that ball moves that way. And then Eden Hazard, he comes in there and he likes to work the ball the other way. Saying that, it was just a well-struck ball, that movement out of anything. We saw Ronaldo hit one with movement, and that's the one that will beat goalkeepers. If you hit it a little bit too purely, Ronaldo's was a little bit too. As long as there's a bit of a turn on it, the goalkeeper can pick it up.
Well, Ronaldo couldn't find a goal to make him the sole all-time leading goal scorer in men's international football. He will leave Euro 2020 tied on 109 goals. Still incredible that he tied it in 3 group stage games. I really can't get over the fact that Portugal weren't able to find a goal in this match against Belgium. But you look at Ronaldo and the free kicks, and the sadness that it was seeing Portugal bow out of this tournament, because this is the last European Championships we're going to see Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. I gotta believe, though, he's still going to be a key piece in Qatar at the World Cup next year, which is 18 months away now.
Mm-hmm. Amazingly, isn't it? He keeps himself in unbelievable shape. He lives it. Everything he does during the day, 24/7, is all concentrating on his body, his physique, his ability to be a better player and continue on at a level where it's like he's still the best player on the field. Like if you're looking at somebody, I've got my eyes on him all game, just watching him stroll around, looking for that moment to make a run. And so many times that it never came for him, and it was pretty. They marked him pretty well. They did a really good job on Ronaldo. I don't think they had a special plan for him because he's just that good. But you have to always be aware of him, and I think overall they have to be pleased with how they handled Ronaldo, but also walking off the field thinking, wow, we're very fortunate we didn't concede today. Very. It
is funny, right? The criticism that Ronaldo gets, because as you said, like the best player on the pitch 9 matches out of 10. And yes, he's on the score sheet in games where he wasn't particularly great, like against Hungary. Didn't really have the best game, but gets the 2 goals and delivers when the team needed. Wasn't able to deliver today. All the conversation, though, about are Portugal better without him? Would Portugal play a different game without him? Yeah, of course they would play a different game without him. But you look at the pieces that I thought made this side so much better than 2016. Bruno Fernandes being probably the key piece. Bernardo Silva, who wasn't involved with that side 5 years ago. These guys were shadows of the players that we see in the Premier League shining for their Manchester clubs.
Exactly. It is something. We saw that with with Ronaldo and how he's dealt with certain things and how he's played with certain teams and the criticism that he gets, because when you got a guy like him that basically plays real life FIFA, and he's one of those guys. Like he's not even a human being, and everybody expects him to set that standard every single game, and you can't live up to that. He lives up to it 99% of the time. He really does. But it's, what have you done for me lately? They were booing at halftime a little bit. They were a little bit frustrated, and it's like, oh my goodness, like seriously, you really are as good as your last game sometimes with some fans, and that's unfortunate. But we all know he's going to go down as an absolute legend.
It's the other players, I think, that will get some more of the blame. I thought Joao Felix, for not having been involved and having picked up a knock in training before the tournament, I thought he made a big impact. I would like to see some more from Andre Silva, who had a fantastic season at Eintracht Frankfurt. But we won't see Portugal again. We'll see Belgium against Italy. A quick thought on that matchup before I ask you about the Dutch to finish up?
Well, I thought that anybody who wins from that group of the bracket, when you're looking at, they have Belgium now, got to play the Italians and potentially France after that. Whoever comes out of that, and if they can win this tournament, they're going to deserve it, because it's a lot harder than the other side. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And English fans looking at the bracket after Holland's loss today, being dumped by the Czech Republic, English fans might be looking ahead of themselves. They do have Germany to deal with at Wembley on Tuesday. But I mean, if they can get past the Germans, then they could be looking at another magical run here, as they have the rest of their matches at Wembley as well. What did you think of the collapse by the Dutch? I truly didn't see it coming. They hadn't been tested before, but I mean, the Czech just had their number.
I think if you're going to be Southgate, you're going to say, listen to everybody else when they're talking about the Dutch team going in. They're basically giving them a run possibly to the final, and they basically pushed the Czech Republic aside. And it's a good example to show what could actually happen to England as well if they don't play a very good game against the Germans. They're going to need to be the very best and play better than they probably have in this whole tournament to beat them before they start thinking about who they're going to pick up next game. Because the Czech Republic, as I said to somebody who put a little wager on the match, I was on Holland. I was like, yeah, but it's, Czech Republic. I played with Czech players before, and they're tough. And they also have a couple West Ham players on them now. So I know what they're made of, and I know they make life very, very difficult for teams. So I wouldn't make that they're playing on house money now.
Well, I always enjoy talking soccer with you, my friend. And maybe next time you can make an effort and wear a collared shirt instead of one that's going to, get it under my skin.
Right. Well, that's right. We'll have to get another one. The Spanish one? No, that one's not collared. Well,
thanks, Greg.
Cheers, buddy.
So the champions are out, and Euro 2020 moves on with 2 more clashes in this last 16 stage, featuring 2 powers on Monday, except this time they're not playing each other. Both Spain and Croatia found their scoring boots in their last game. The best teams grow into a tournament. We saw that with Spain when they won it in 2008 and again in 2012. We saw that with Croatia when they made a run to the World Cup final in Russia 3 years ago. This will be a very different test than facing the likes of Scotland and Slovakia, though. Going up against each other, it's a bit of a coin toss, if you ask me. Then we'll see the world champions, who are still the bookies' favorites to win this whole tournament, You get the feeling that we really haven't seen the best of France yet, and that's scary for anybody else. No doubt they're going to make it difficult for Brendan Shaqiri and the Swiss on Monday. But as we saw on Sunday, the knockout stage is a completely different tournament all to itself. The change room talk and chemistry issues could come to light under the pressure on Monday. I really thought that would be France's problem. Haven't seen it yet. All the transfer speculation surrounding Kylian Mbappe, is it getting to him? He hasn't shown his best yet. But I got a feeling we'll see a more accurate reflection of France against the Swiss. After the matches, you know what? You can see this show, Headers and Footers, every match night on the Toronto Stars YouTube page, or download and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe, leave us a review. You have no idea how much it helps. And this has been a bit of therapy for me on a day in which I thought there might be some celebrations for Portugal moving on at Euro 2020. They've packed their bags and now have to move on without Cristiano Ronaldo, at least the European Championships. He's playing in Qatar for sure. Thanks for kicking it with me. I needed this more than you know.